All right, on this installment of Better FAQ videos, we're going to give you the skinny on why not, or maybe you should, register your company initially in Delaware or another state outside of whatever state you live in. I'm going to use California because we're in California as a law firm. So we get this question all the time. It's kind of this like infamous thing on the internet and with other older attorneys that you should register your corporation in Delaware. And there are, in my opinion, very limited reasons to do that. Now, the number one reason to register your company initially, so forming it in its initial jurisdiction, its home jurisdiction, is going to be if you're looking to get VC funding or some type of like Series A, really the traditional startup. You want to go be a unicorn and get acquired and take a bunch of series funding along the way. Most of those investors are actually going to prefer that you have a Delaware C Corp or a Delaware S Corp. S Corps are just a tax election. Watch other videos for the details on that. And so in those scenarios, that might be a situation where, yeah, it makes sense to actually register your company in Delaware. Now, the reason that I'm usually against that, and most of our clients aren't going to be the ones that go the traditional startup route. We have a few, and they might be Delaware corporations, but most of the time, my recommendation will be against starting in Delaware. And the reason for that is that, let's say, for instance, you're a resident of California, you work out of your home or you work out of an office in California for everything for this business, and you want to start it out in Delaware. Well, the problem is going to be that sooner or later, California, when you report your taxes, your income on your taxes, and they look at your tax returns and they see that you're reporting income or revenue from a company that isn't in California, but you, as a California resident, are in California, well, guess what? Our governments make money from the taxes we pay, and if that business isn't in California paying taxes, but you're making money off of it, California wants their share. So they're going to ask you to register. They're probably going to assess a fine or a penalty because you didn't register when you started doing business. And so what I'm getting at here is that when you start in another state, and by the way, this is true of Delaware, Nevada, Arizona, Wyoming, what other state you want to register in, but you're in a different state, regardless of what state it is, Delaware or not, this is true for all of those. And so what ends up happening is, not only are you then dealing with the annual requirements and taxes in Delaware, for the example I use, but then also California. So you're doubling up on those things that you have to do for compliance, the taxes that you have to pay, and the fees, the money that's coming out of your business for compliance in both states. So whenever you do this, you're essentially doubling up. And the other thing with this is that it's frankly more shit to forget. If you have a bunch of compliance in both places and a bunch of taxes and a bunch of fees, sooner or later something gets dropped. And chances are you also need a registered agent that you have to pay for in whatever other state because you're not physically present there to give them an address. So what I'm all trying to get at here is when you register in another state initially and you're physically present and a resident of a different state, most likely in almost all scenarios, you're then going to have to register in the place that you're a resident as well. And then you're doubling up and you're doubling up all the compliance fees and taxes. And it really just isn't necessary unless you're in maybe that one scenario, that one exception where you're going to be a unicorn and get a bunch of fundraising and do Series A and B and C and end up getting acquired or going public. Then maybe Delaware makes sense. But in almost all other circumstances, I would recommend against it. And that is me dispelling the pretty common myth that a Delaware S Corp is the way to be. Thanks for tuning in.